I need to talk to you about a weather pattern that is unfolding right now across the United States that is truly remarkable in terms of how extreme the contrasts are going to be over the next 7 to 10 days. We are looking at a situation where the jet stream has shifted into a configuration that is going to produce not one, but two separate Arctic blasts across the eastern United States, followed by what could be one of the most dramatic warm-ups we have seen in months. And at the same time, this is happening in the east. The western and central portions of the country are going to be experiencing temperatures that are well above normal, creating a stark divide across the nation. This is the kind of pattern that produces headline-making weather, and I'm going to walk you through exactly what's happening, when these Arctic blasts are going to hit, who is going to see snow, and what this dramatic warm-up next week is going to look like. Let me start by explaining what has changed with the jet stream, because this is the driving force behind everything that's about to happen. The jet stream has undergone a significant reorganization over the past 48 hours. We've moved from a pattern where the jet stream was running in a relatively flat configuration across the country to one where it has become highly amplified with deep troughs and strong ridges. On the western side of the United States, we have a massive ridge of high pressure that is built over the Rockies and is extending westward to the Pacific coast. This ridge is bringing temperatures that are 15 to 25 degrees above normal across much of the west and the central plains. Cities like Los Angeles, Phoenix, Denver, and even areas back into Kansas and Oklahoma are seeing spring-like conditions with temperatures well into the 50s, 60s, and in some cases even approaching 70 degrees. But on the eastern side of the country, we have the exact opposite. A deep trough has dug into the eastern United States, and this trough is funneling Arctic air south out of Canada. This is creating a temperature contrast across the country that is absolutely extraordinary. We could have situations where cities in the west are 60 or 70 degrees, while cities in the east are struggling to get above zero. That's a temperature difference of 70 degrees or more across the country at the same time. This kind of extreme contrast is what makes this pattern so noteworthy. Now, the Arctic air is going to arrive in two distinct waves, and understanding the timing and intensity of each wave is critical. The first Arctic blast is actually underway right now as of today, February 6th. We have a cold front that pushed through Texas overnight and is now stretching from the southern plains all the way up into the northeast. Behind this front, temperatures have dropped dramatically. Areas that were in the 50s and 60s yesterday are now in the 20s and 30s. Dallas-Fort Worth went from a high of 68 degrees yesterday to a current temperature of 32 degrees. That's a 36-degree drop in less than 24 hours. Oklahoma City dropped from 65 to 28. Little Rock went from 62 to 30. These are significant temperature changes, and they're happening across a huge area. As we move through today and into tonight, this cold air is going to continue spreading eastward. The Mid-Atlantic and the Northeast are going to see temperatures drop through the afternoon and evening hours. New York City is going to go from the low 40s this morning down into the upper 20s by tonight. Boston is going to drop from the mid-40s into the low 30s. Washington, D.C. is going to see a similar drop. And with this cold air moving in, we're also going to see some light snow develop across portions of the Great Lakes, the Ohio Valley, and the interior Northeast. Now, this first wave of snow is not going to be a major event. We're talking about light accumulations, generally an inch or two in most locations. Some areas could see 3 or 4 inches if they get caught under a heavier band, but widespread heavy snow is not expected with this first system. The bigger story with this first Arctic blast is simply the cold itself and how quickly temperatures are dropping. We're also going to see some wind with this system, which is going to make it feel even colder. Wind chills tonight across the Ohio Valley and the Northeast are going to drop into the teens and single digits in many locations. But as significant as this first Arctic blast is, it's really just setting the stage for what's coming this weekend. The second Arctic blast is going to be much more intense, much more widespread, and is going to bring the potential for more significant snow. Let me walk you through the timeline for this weekend. As we move into Friday, February 7th, we're going to see a brief lull in the action. Temperatures are going to remain cold across the east, but we're not going to see much in the way of active weather. This is the calm before the storm. Saturday, February 8th, is when things are going to change rapidly. A second and much colder air mass is going to begin pushing into the northern plains and the upper Midwest during the day on Saturday. This air mass is going to be brutally cold. We're talking about high temperatures on Saturday struggling to reach zero in places like Minneapolis, Fargo, and Bismarck. Overnight lows Saturday night into Sunday morning could drop to 20 or even 30 below zero in some areas. And as this air mass pushes eastward, it's going to bring a rapid temperature drop to areas from the Great Lakes through the Ohio Valley and into the Northeast. The speed at which temperatures are going to drop is going to be remarkable. Some areas could see temperature drops of 40 degrees or more within a 24-hour period. For example, Chicago could go from a high of 35 degrees on Saturday afternoon down to a high of just 5 degrees on Sunday. That's a 30-degree drop in the high temperature in just one day. Detroit could go from 32 on Saturday to 3 on Sunday. Cleveland could drop from 30 to 5. These kinds of rapid temperature changes create all sorts of problems, from stress on infrastructure to dangerous conditions for anyone who is not prepared. Now, along with this second Arctic blast, we're going to see the potential for more significant snow. As the Arctic front pushes through on Saturday night into Sunday, we're going to see snow develop across a large area stretching from the Great Lakes through the Ohio Valley and into the Northeast. Current model guidance is suggesting that this could be a fairly widespread snow event with accumulations that are going to be more significant than what we saw with the first system. Specifically, I'm looking at the potential for 3 to 7 inches of snow across much of the Great Lakes region, including areas like Michigan, northern Ohio, and western Pennsylvania. The Ohio Valley, including cities like Cincinnati, Columbus, and Pittsburgh, could see 2 to 5 inches. And across the Northeast, we're looking at the potential for 3 to 6 inches from upstate New York through Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. There could be some isolated areas that see higher amounts, potentially approaching 8 to 12 inches if the heaviest bands set up in the right locations, particularly in the higher elevations of the Appalachians and northern New England. The snow is going to be accompanied by strong winds, which is going to create blowing and drifting snow and reduced visibility. We could see wind gusts of 30 to 40 miles per hour in some areas, which when combined with falling snow is going to create very difficult travel conditions. If you're planning to be on the road Saturday night or Sunday, you need to be prepared for winter weather conditions. Sunday, February 9th is going to be the coldest day of this entire pattern for most of the eastern United States. This is when we're going to see those brutally cold temperatures I mentioned earlier. High temperatures across the Great Lakes and the Northeast are going to struggle to get above 10 degrees in many locations. Some areas might not even get above zero. Overnight lows Sunday night into Monday morning could drop below zero for a large area stretching from the upper Midwest through the Great Lakes and into portions of the interior Northeast. Wind chills are going to be dangerous, potentially dropping to 20 or 30 below zero in the coldest locations. This is the kind of cold where you need to take precautions. Frostbite can occur on exposed skin in just minutes when wind chills are this low. If you need to be outside, make sure you're fully covered. Limit your time outdoors, and check on elderly neighbors who may be more vulnerable to the cold. This is also the kind of cold where pipes can freeze and burst if they're not properly protected. If you have any exposed pipes, now is the time to make sure they're insulated. Now here's where things get really interesting. After we get through this weekend of extreme cold and snow, the pattern is going to do a complete flip. As we move into next week, that ridge of high pressure that has been sitting over the western United States is going to shift eastward. And when it does, it's going to bring a dramatic warm-up to much of the central and eastern United States. I'm talking about one of the most significant warm-ups we've seen in months. By the middle of next week, Tuesday and Wednesday, February 11th and 12th, temperatures across the Great Plains and the Midwest are going to surge. We could see high temperatures that are 30 degrees or more above normal for this time of year. Cities that are going to be below zero on Sunday could be in the 40s or even 50s by Wednesday. Kansas City could go from a high of 10 degrees on Sunday to a high of 55 degrees by Wednesday. That's a 45-degree temperature swing in just 3 days. Omaha could go from 5 degrees to 50 degrees. Even areas farther east like Chicago and Detroit could see temperatures climb from the single digits on Sunday into the upper 30s or low 40s by the middle of next week. This kind of dramatic temperature swing is going to create its own set of problems. Rapid melting of snow and ice is going to create flooding concerns in some areas. Roads that were snow-covered and icy are going to become slushy and wet, creating different but still hazardous driving conditions. And the rapid temperature changes can create stress on infrastructure, particularly older buildings and bridges. Looking at the total snowfall expected over the next 5 to 7 days, we're looking at a widespread 3 to 7 inches across the Great Lakes and the Northeast from these two systems combined. Some areas, particularly in the lake effect snowbelts and the higher elevations, could see totals approaching 10 to 12 inches. There's even the potential for some isolated locations in the Adirondacks or the higher peaks of northern New England to approach 12 to 15 inches if they get hit by multiple bands of lake effect snow on top of the system snow. The pattern beyond next week remains uncertain, but there are some signals that we need to pay attention to. The long-range models are suggesting that after this brief warm-up in the middle of next week, we could see another push of cold air late next week or into the following weekend. This wouldn't be as extreme as what we're seeing this weekend, but it would bring temperatures back below normal again. The overall pattern for the rest of February looks like it's going to remain active and volatile with swings between cold and mild rather than any sustained stretch of one type of weather. One thing I want to emphasize is just how unusual this temperature contrast across the country is going to be. While the East is dealing with Arctic cold, the West is going to continue experiencing spring-like warmth. We could very easily see a situation this weekend where it's 65 degrees in Los Angeles while it's 5 degrees in New York City. Phoenix could be 75 while Boston is 10. This kind of extreme contrast is what happens when you get a highly amplified jet stream pattern, and it's a reminder of just how variable weather can be across such a large country. For anyone in the path of these Arctic blasts, preparation is key. Make sure you have adequate heating. Stock up on food and supplies in case you don't want to venture out in the extreme cold. Make sure your vehicles are winterized and that you have emergency supplies in your car in case you get stranded. And if you're planning to travel this weekend, especially on Saturday night or Sunday, be prepared for winter weather conditions and give yourself extra time. The bottom line is that we're looking at a wild week of weather across the United States. 2 Arctic blasts are going to bring extreme cold and snow to the east, followed by a dramatic warm-up next week that's going to swing temperatures in the opposite direction. This is an active and volatile pattern, and it's going to require everyone to stay alert and stay prepared. I'll continue to provide updates as this situation evolves. Stay safe out there, and I'll see you in the next forecast.